Everybody, Andy here again. Good morning. Once again, I should put the figures down there to get things started. Not a good day. It's 684 deaths and a total of over 3,500 now. But we've had 173, over 173,000 people tested. Still not a great deal, but anyway, we talked a bit about that yesterday. But it's Saturday. Honest, it is Saturday. I mean, it's about half of you are going, yeah, it's the weekend, and the rest of you are going, Saturday? It's Saturday? You sure? I thought it was whatever. But on a serious note, actually, because it's the weekend and next weekend is Easter as well. Here in the UK, I mean, it's quite misty here on the coast at the moment, but we're expecting to have quite a nice weekend and actually quite a warm weekend. And the worry is from the government or the health system altogether is that a lot of people are going to start ignoring that advice, about going out and walking and all this sort of stuff and basically staying at home and going to the seaside, going to the country parks and all those types of things, driving away and getting out there and having little family outings. This is what happened about 2 weeks ago, which is what preempted our sort of semi-lockdown now. And the government yesterday on their sort of daily press briefing actually made this point. It was almost like a little warning. Basically, you know the rules. You've got to stay at home unless you absolutely have to go out, supermarket, shop, one form of exercise per day. Don't drive more than 5 minutes away from your home. All that sort of stuff. Essential journeys only. And the inference there, I believe, is that if people don't take any notice of this today, tomorrow, Sunday, saying, and then Monday, we're going to be in a bigger situation. We're going to be in the total lockdown, and you will be under that situation like they've got in other countries, where you're going to have roadblocks and you're going to have that. I mean, they've already said, local police have said that they're going to be sort of stopping people or monitoring people going to our country park here in Hastings or just outside Hastings, things like that. So take note of that. We're not going to go out, partly because we don't. It happened to us a couple of weeks ago, and there were so many people. We thought it made you nervous in a way, and it made you quite angry as well to an extent. Okay, we were out there. Yes, I get that. Before someone else says it, I understand that, but we're not going to. We're staying at home this weekend, and please do that yourself because you know what's going to come otherwise. Right. So what I was going to talk about today was all this. Hang on, let's get. It's not easy. This is it with this mirror image thing. All these are all CDs, as you might have noticed. There's about 700 there, and I've got vinyl and that. Because one of the things that's helping me get through this, and there are lots of things which I shall probably talk about, and maybe it's helping you as well, is listening to music. Music's everywhere now. We know that you can listen to it just about everywhere. Back in the day, it was harder to find, but now the flick of a switch, press of a button, there it is. It's on the internet and everything. It's on the radio, it's everything. There is music everywhere. But one of the things I've been doing, and to be honest, I actually started doing this before this whole coronavirus thing really kicked off. It was just something because I had more time, and I just started once a day or more than that, or at least trying at least once a day to listen to a whole album, one of those up there, in its entirety. And what I was doing also was what I discovered someone else called deep listening. Now, I read an article afterwards about this, something deep listening. The idea being is that you shut yourself off. You put your album on, whether it be, I think it needs to be vinyl and it needs to be, or a CD. I mean, yes, I'm sure it could work in a digital format, listened to on Spotify or a similar service, but I don't think it'd have quite the same feeling to it. And get the album, put your headphones on, or isolate yourself, which is pretty easy these days, isn't it? And just listen to that music. Put your phone away, turn your phone off, don't have any distractions at all, and just immerse yourself, lose yourself in the music. It's what we used to do back in the day. What I do is I lay on the floor over by my stereo system over there with my headphones on. Julie may well be sitting on the sofa reading or doing whatever, and you just lose yourself. And it's so relaxing that apparently I've actually fallen asleep a couple of times. That's not anything bad against the particular albums that I've been listening to, but it sort of chills you out so much that that's what happens. But a friend of mine said, you're listening to music like a teenager, Andy, and it is a bit like that. It is a bit like going back to those old days where you used to listen to music. People of my age, my generation will understand. And funny enough, I've been just started reading this book by a guy called David Hepworth, quite well known over here, music journalist, and it's called how the LP saved our lives. The book's called A Fabulous Creation, and see if you can get where that comes from, because I thought, fabulous creation, I know that's a lyric from somewhere, I know it is, and if I remember, I shall show you where the lyric comes from at the end of this. Bit of a teaser, but what he's talking about the album, I mean, obviously there were albums back in the 50s or 60s, or early 60s, but for him, the album era started with Sergeant Pepper back in 1967. I think it's July 1967. The Beatles released Sergeant Pepper. His argument is, and I totally understand where he's coming from, that was like the first proper album that came out. It was never intended to be played live, for example, because the Beatles just stopped playing. The album artwork and everything, the fold out, the little bits and pieces that came with it, and it was the first album ever to have the lyrics printed on the sleeve or within it, so you could actually follow it in that respect, and it sort of led the way, being a sort of a concept album as well, to what came afterwards. And he ends the book, I haven't got that far, but I know he ends the book in 1982 with Michael Jackson's Thriller, the last really, really big album, vinyl album, obviously before CDs come along. He's not dismissing CDs at all, but it was the vinyl era because of albums that came about at that time. In fact, I've got a couple here which I shall share, because I listening to these, I actually wrote down some of the ones that I've been listening to, because it's sometimes a case of revisiting albums that you haven't listened to for years. You know, you got sat up there and you think, oh, I haven't listened to that. It's an opportunity. Some you think, that maybe hasn't stood the test of time. But to be fair, most of the ones I've listened to, I thought, wow, you know, this is a lot better than I thought. And and I'm hearing things in the albums, partly because of listening through headphones and listening properly, not being distracted. It's not on in the background, and I hate that. I have to listen to the music, otherwise I'll turn it off. I'd rather not listen to music at all than not be able to hear it properly, if you know what I mean. Bit of a purist in that respect. But I'm hearing things like I listened to Dark Side of the Moon the other week, and also listened to Wish You Were Here as well, because they're classic albums from that sort of classic era. I think which Dark Side of the Moon is 1973, which seems to be a pretty good year for albums, as I'll show you a couple in a minute. And I was hearing things in there that I'd never heard before. I mean, that was an album that I used to listen to a lot, laying on the floor, you know, with your mates or something, maybe smoking something that you shouldn't be or whatever, and then looking at the album and listening in the dark with candles and all that sort of stuff. Sounds very hippie and all that sort of stuff, but but you immersed yourself in it, and the memories. So obviously, there you go. I can remember how I listened to that album. How often can you say that now when you listen to something on Spotify? I remember where I was when I heard that album on Spotify. No, I don't think you can do that. So a couple of them. Right, this is one. Just because it's this is Supertramp, Crime of the Century. A great covers, and that's one of the things about the album. People have tried to do that with CDs as well, and they made a pretty good effort, I must admit. But it's never quite the same. And obviously, with digital music, you have nothing of that. It created a whole new art form. It created people out there with designers and things like that. Peter Blake, obviously, with Sergeant Pepper, made his name. I know he was known before, but it's what most people now remember him for. All the hypnosis stuff that people use for, like Pink Floyd albums, and that they're iconic images. And this is one. I can't really think what attracted me to this particular album. It's actually Golden Earrings album. If you look at the inside as well, look, that's the inside cover. So, I mean, that's a 1973 album. Crime of the Century was 1974. I did honestly buy the Golden Earring album because it's the album with Radar Love on, for those that know. But give it a go. It's Saturday night. Get out there and put some music on and just immerse yourself in it, either on your own, with your family, with your partner, or whatever it might be. And just sit there and listen, because you'll discover things. And then it's a great way to take some of the stresses and strains off of being confined to your four walls. When you've got your headphones on and you're listening to one of those albums, and listen to the whole thing. Don't stop it, just listen to the whole thing completely. It takes you to somewhere else. Music has that ability to do that, as other art forms do as well. But it's one of the most accessible, especially when you've got all those CDs up there. But right, okay, that's a fabulous creation. Anybody recognise this? This is Roxy Music's album, For Your Pleasure. Now, I open it up. Actually, this is my original copy from 1973. And the first track on there is a track called Do the Strand, the first lines of which, there's a new sensation, a fabulous creation. So there you go. But that particular album, before I bought it, my school friend of mine who happened to live next door to me where I was at the time, and he was always getting albums for Christmas and birthdays. I don't know why I didn't, but he always used to write a list. And that was one of the albums that he got. I used to go around to his house a lot, and we used to sit in their sort of dining room, spare room, listening to music. And every time I went round, he used to say, "What do you want to hear, Andy?" And it was always for your pleasure by Roxy Music. See, the memories keep flooding out. Maybe you'll give it a go and they'll start flooding out again for you as well. Give it a try. Anyway, stay at home, stay safe, stay strong, and hopefully I shall see you tomorrow. Goodbye.